Hello there, and welcome back to another video in my fall series called Fall in Love with Baking. My name's Devin Taylor. I'm the owner and the baker with Sweet Notes Bakery. Today is a much awaited video, one I'm really excited to do with you. Today I'm going to take you step by step through how to make the perfect, classic, traditional pumpkin roll. Now, depending on where you live, pumpkin rolls are a fall classic. I grew up in Pennsylvania and now I live in Maryland, and they are everywhere this time of year. You're gonna find them in your scratch bakeries, to your grocery stores, and of course your farmers markets during the fall as well. And today I am going to help you make the perfect pumpkin roll that is a great centerpiece and dessert for any of your holiday and friend gatherings throughout these cooler months. Essentially, a pumpkin roll is just two elements: your pumpkin sponge cake, which is what you roll, and then the filling that you're going to put into it, which a traditional one has a cream cheese filling. Not so hard, right? But the trick is in the actual technique and execution of what we're going to do with the sponge cake and the filling. So let's get to that. For this, no mixers. No mixers, no stand mixer, no hand mixer. Trust me, get a bowl, get a whisk. That is going to be your best tool for this. Over mixing a sponge cake, especially when we're going to spread it thin and we want to roll it, is the biggest mistake that you can make. Because if you over mix it, it's going to be tough and it's going to break apart. It's not going to have the elasticity that we're looking for. So trust me on this. All right, 1 cup of white granulated sugar into your bowl first. Now we are going to whisk and slowly add 3 eggs. We are only going to mix this until it's incorporated and makes a nice pale yellow color. So this is where you would probably overmix if you had a mixer. Apparently I'm doing 2 at once because they weren't going to separate. There's just a couple ingredients that go into this sponge cake and it is so delicious. Okay, 1 egg to go. See, I am not mixing that much. I just want it to be combined. Beautiful. Now, we're going to go in with 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just going to whisk that in. That's it, that's the spice combination we're using here. Okay, now we're going to whisk in 1 cup of pumpkin puree. And 3/4 of a cup all-purpose flour. Mix this in until it's just combined and you don't see any loose flour or clumps of it. And then that's going to be it for our sponge cake batter. There it is. We've just made the batter. Now let's get the pan. So I have my prepared pan here. This is a 17 by 11.5 inch pan. You can also use a 9 by 13 baking sheet as well, depending on what size you would like, or some people would say that that's a jelly roll pan. I'm using a larger pan because I want it to be a slightly thinner cake so I can get more rolls. This is just also always the pan I've always done it in. So, okay, I have it lined with parchment. Everything has been sprayed really well with cooking spray. That's really important. You want to make sure you get into the corners. We don't want any of these sides to stick because that is what's going to be on the outside of the roll, and we want the whole thing to look beautiful. So once you have that, you're just going to take your batter, tip it out into that, and you would just want to spread it out. Make sure it's as level as possible because we want a nice, level, smooth surface to work with. Okay. Now my oven is already preheating to 350 degrees. And this is going to bake for 10 to 12 minutes. I like to start with 10 and check it. It's often done about then because we really don't want to over bake this. It's thin and it's a sponge cake, so we want it to just spring back and be done. And then we're going to go on to the most crucial and probably the most nerve-wracking part of the entire pumpkin roll process, and that is rolling this cake while it is still hot. We'll talk, I'll help you. While your cake is in the oven, it's important that you set up for this next step. So I like to have hot pads out where I'm going to put the pan. I have a very slightly damp linen towel. This is important, it needs to be linen. This is actually what we're going to roll the cake in. Linen is not going to transfer a bunch of fuzzies and such to your actual cake, so that's why you want linen. So I have that here. And you want to have some powdered sugar. I just have it in a little sifter here that I'm just going to sprinkle over top. That's also an agent that's going to help us stop the cake from sticking to itself and to the towel. So you want to have these things ready to go because when it comes out of the oven, we want to act quickly and go on to the next step, which, like I said, is actually rolling the cake. All right, our cake is out of the oven. So I'm just going to set it down here. And a slight correction on what I said earlier, 12 minutes if you're baking at 375, 15 minutes if you're baking at 350. I like to bake at 350, the lower temperature. Again, it helps you avoid over baking as much as possible. So 350 for 15 minutes, 375 if you're feeling daring, that's your 10 to 12 minute time. So now that it's out, I am just going to make sure that the sides are loose all the way around. That way when we go to flip it, everything comes off clean, and I can already see this whole side is pulled away, which is excellent. So I'm just going to go around again, because if one edge sticks, it's going to tear, and we don't want that. Okay. Looking good. Let's get this out of the way. And this. Now we're going to sprinkle the top of this with powdered sugar. And be generous with this. This will help it from sticking. I promise you're not adding a ton of sweetness by doing this. It's going to stop it from sticking to itself and the towel, and it's going to make rolling it so much easier. Get your corners. Okay. Now, you want to take your linen towel that's slightly damp and it's been here waiting, it's ready. You're going to lay that over top. So I'm going to go this way. Okay. Now what we're going to do is pick this up, flip it, and we are going to let the cake fall out onto the towel. It's important that you hold the towel nice and taut when you flip it. That way you're not actually losing the cake. The cake doesn't fall out. So we're going to hold it nice and tight and we're going to flip. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we are going to carefully lift the pan, which honestly is pretty cool by now. You want to do it nice and slow. Came off nice and clean. Excellent. Set that aside. I'm going to take out my pot holders here because we want a nice, smooth, level surface for when we roll it. Okay, straighten your towel. Gently peel back your parchment. Beautiful. All right, and we're gonna powder sugar this side now. Okay. Now I know it's nerve-wracking to think that you're going to roll this hot. And if you watch baking shows, some people roll it hot and some don't. Honestly, I have found that rolling it hot is what really makes the difference. Rolling it hot is going to stop the cake from cracking when it's cooled and you unroll it to fill it. So, start at one end. I like to roll the end of my towel up to meet the end of my cake like that, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're just going to fold that over and you are just going to start to roll. The tighter the roll you can get, the better. So get nice and tight and roll it as evenly as possible. Keep rolling, and we're rolling, and that's it. It's all in here. So another important tip that I can give you, let this cool at room temperature for an hour and a half. Do not refrigerate it. If you refrigerate it, it's going to cool too quickly and you're gonna lose some of that elasticity in the cake that we have. So, hour and a half at room temperature, half an hour in the refrigerator, and then we're gonna come back and fill it. While this is doing its thing, then you're going to make your filling, which is really easy. 1/4 cup butter, 8 ounces of cream cheese, and 3 cups of powdered sugar. And if you need it, you can add a little bit of milk or heavy cream until you get it the nice consistency that you would like. And that is going to be what fills this. But for now, we're going to let this cool and I will come back and we'll unroll it and fill it together. Here we are. All right, it's about 2.5 hours later. Our pumpkin roll is cool but not cold. And I have my cream cheese filling here. I made a lot because I'm actually going to make multiple pumpkin rolls. So it is time. We are going to unroll this baby. So when you're unrolling this, just nice and slow, but you should kind of see that it's got memory. And hopefully you don't see any cracks in your sponge as you are unrolling, which I do not. Score, and then when you get to the end, be extra gentle. That's where it's most likely to crack, and open it up. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to fill it. Leave maybe 1/2 inch around in the border, except for this end here on these 3 sides. That way when you roll it, it doesn't come squashing out the sides. We want it to all stay nice in the roll there. So make sure your filling is nice and spreadable. If it's too stiff and you're trying to pull it across, you're gonna rip the sponge and we don't want that. So just put your filling in here. And I wanted to mention the method I did earlier with baking it, flipping it out, rolling it like this, that works for any roulade, which is just a fancy way to say roll, like a Swiss roll, pumpkin roll. But you could use it when you make your Yule logs at Christmas. You can use it if you're making gingerbread rolls, anything like that. That method will work for it. I make spring rolls with fresh berries and whipped cream in the middle, and I do that for every single one. So that is good for more than just a pumpkin roll. All right, I have a nice even layer. So I'm actually going to rotate it here. And now all we're going to do is re-roll this. So because we rolled it when it was hot, this cake has like memory. Think of it like a memory foam mattress or muscle memory. It is naturally going to want to roll back up. So you want to slowly roll it, but you want to tug away the linen towel gently as well so that there is no resistance when you're rolling. Try to keep it as even as you can. I'm not always great with the even pressure part. All right. The hard part's over. So at this point, you can do a couple of different things. You could transfer it to your serving platter or a plate. You could slice it. You can wrap it in plastic wrap and then in foil, and you can freeze it. They're good for, I would say, probably 3 months in the freezer. They're delicious. Once you freeze them, totally safe to do that. What I'm going to do is this one's going to be sliced, so I'm actually going to just trim off the very ends. I like to kind of get rid of those, I guess, a bit tougher ends, and I also want to make sure that every slice you see that perfect roll in it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to slice it up, put it on a tray, and it'll be ready to go to the event tomorrow morning. As always, I'll post a picture of that at the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching my channel. Follow me on my other socials, which are in the description box below with the recipe as well. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and come back next week to see another fall favorite that I'll be baking up. Little hint, there's nothing more American than this dessert.